Functions 2, types of functions and graphs of functions. Okay, so a graph of function basically is just a drawing that shows you what happens if you change the value of x. If you change the domain, what happens to the range? If you change the x, what happens to the y? Okay, and effectively we've 6 types of function, okay, which can divide it into 3 different groups. Okay, so just make sure you're clear on these. You want to be able to recognize the drawing, the graph, okay, recognize it when it's written as a function, and then we move on from there. Okay, so that's how we're going to do in the introduction. Then we look at calculations, and we'll take calculations off past papers so you'll get a feel for what's required at this stage. Okay, so basically, okay, there's 3 types. Okay, first type, okay, linear, quadratic, and cubic. Okay, and you'll be familiar with these. Okay, so f of x, linear. Okay, the highest power of x is x to the power of 1, so order 1, as I'd say. Okay, so the highest power is x to the power of 1. Okay, this is what we use all the time in quadratic geometry. Okay, and we call it y is equal to x plus 7, and we do that an awful lot in quadratic geometry, which we'll come back to later in the strand on geometry. Okay, so order 1. Okay, and the shape, sorry, move myself in the space. Okay, so very generically the space, it's a straight line, so that's called a linear equation. That's why it's called linear. Second one is when you have an order 2. Okay, and when you have an order 2, okay, you have 1 term. Okay, you have 1 term. If it's minus x squared, it's inverted. Okay, and you've done a lot of that in junior circle. But that's all it's a quadratic. Okay, and the third type then is a cubic. Okay, so it's order 3. And in algebra, we deal with the factor theorem and so on. So everything links in eventually. But for the time being, all we're worried about here is functions. Okay, so you're comfortable that if you draw that, it has 2 terms. Okay, maybe a max and a min in different places. And we'll be looking at those in greater detail later on functions when we're doing differentiation and max and min, turning points and so on. Okay, but a cubic has 2 terms. Okay, like that. And these are called local max and local min because as you go on, okay, this isn't the maximum point because there's points higher. Okay, but it's called the local maximum. It's the maximum where the turning points take place. Okay, so I think you're comfortable with all those. Okay, it's very important to be able to recognize what shape they should be. Okay, and we'll see later on with differentiation. We'll be bringing all this together. Okay, then the next thing is the logarithmic and the exponential functions. Okay, exponential function we're becoming very clear on now. Okay, about the exponential curves and so on, and flattening the curve and so on. So exponential, okay, so exponential will be something of the form basically the x is in the index, okay, it's in the power, okay, and you can have an exponential curve that's going up or going down, okay, but basically it's generally of that shape, okay, so it's of that shape. And then you have the log curves or the log function, okay, and as we'll see when we do it later on in the next section when we're talking about inverse functions, okay, inversal functions, there is a relationship in the diagram, and the log is the inverse of an exponential. So basically log, they basically look quite similar, but are the inverses, we'll see. Okay, so these are very similar and they're linked. Okay, so basically I consider these linked, and the final function that we have to be able to deal with is trigonometric functions. Okay, so functions of the form this. Okay, we'll be doing them in geometry and trigonometry later on. Okay, but just to be aware, okay, the sine and the cosine ones have that shape. It's called a sinusoidal curve. Those of us in physics be aware of it. It's like a wave. Okay, it's a sine. It's called a sinusoidal curve because it's a sine function. So f of x equals sine of x. Cosine of x is similar shape. Okay, and tan of x a little bit different. Okay, but we'll come back to those when we're doing trigonometry. But again, so just be aware they exist, and you're able to deal with them. So they're the types of functions you need to be able to deal with. We will now look at questions on them. Okay, thanks.